So welcome everybody to the Study Abroad in Australia and New Zealand information session. My name is Rachel Rigoli, and I am the Australia New Zealand advisor in the UCSD Study Abroad office. I am also a proud returnee. I studied in Australia for a full year at Melbourne University as an undergraduate when I was at UC Irvine. And it was really, honestly, one of the best years of my life. So obviously, I'm super excited to talk to you about both Australia and New Zealand. I've been to New Zealand multiple times as well, so I have some experience with New Zealand. And so here we go. So I'm going to assume that everybody is just getting started and really doesn't even, know the basics of study abroad. I do encourage you to complete the Get Started session. There are still several left for this quarter, or do the Get Started Canvas course. It's not a credit-bearing course. It's pretty easy, and that will give you really the foundations and overview of study abroad. But just to go through some of the program information today, you've got 5 types of programs that you can study abroad through our office. The first 2 are through UC San Diego specifically. And the first is Global Seminars, UCSD Global Seminars. Hopefully you've all heard of Global Seminars. Global Exchange Program. And then through the UC system is the Education Abroad Program. You can also study abroad through other UC campuses during the summer. And then if you are interested in going outside the UC system, we call that the Opportunities Abroad Program, or OAP. I'm not going to be talking about OAP much today. And so if you are a non-resident, like an international student or an out-of-state student, and you're interested in doing direct enrollment at a university in New Zealand or Australia, or let's say for the marine biology students in attendance, if you have an outside program that you have found that you feel like is a better fit for you, we can certainly talk about OAP options. So to give you an overview of UCAP, UCAP is a UC system-wide program. It's like you've never left UCSD. It is available to all UC students. So it doesn't matter which UC campus that you are coming from, you're going to see the same programs and countries available to you. And so you have to be an enrolled UC student in order to participate on a UCAP program. The majority of the programs that are offered through UCEAP are going to be at universities overseas. So I'm going to be talking a lot about the exchange agreements that the University of California has in Australia and New Zealand. And when you're abroad, you're going to earn UC credit and UC grades, and it goes straight onto your UCSD transcript. And so you'll be working with your academic advisors to talk to them about getting credit for your UCSD requirements for either your major or your college requirements. If you're in financial aid, your UC aid can go with you. It's very streamlined. They offer programs during the summertime, during the fall, the spring, the year. So they have a wide variety of options for UC students. The other option is the Global Seminars program. So this is one of the UC San Diego specific programs that I mentioned. And these are offered only during the summer, where you're going to be going abroad with a UCSD professor. So it's a different model than the UCAP program, where the majority of the programs are at a host university overseas. With Global Seminars, you travel with the professor. You're going to be taking classes from that professor with a small cohort of classmates, usually 15 to 28 students. The sessions or the programs are all 5 weeks in length. Everybody takes the same 2 classes on the specific program, and you will get 8 UC units for the courses. The Global Exchange Program is also a UC San Diego program, and unlike UCEAP, which is open to all UC students, Global Exchange is only open to UCSD students. So this is an exchange program between UCSD and universities abroad. And there is an exchange option in Australia through Global Exchange at Macquarie University, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later. When you're on the Global Exchange Program, you will be paying your UC tuition, just like Global Seminars. You pay your summer session tuition to UCSD, and with UCAP, you pay your UC tuition. And global exchange actually is a really good bargain in the fall. If you're only away 1 quarter, you're going to maybe be on a semester program and only pay a quarter's worth of tuition. So if you're interested in Macquarie and you meet the eligibility requirements, that could be a great fit for you. The other option for you is to consider going abroad to Australia or New Zealand through other UC campuses. And the other UC campuses run summer programs similarly to the global seminars model, where you go abroad with a UC professor, you take classes, and you earn UC credit and UC grades. We take students from the other UC campuses and outside of the UC system, and they take students from outside their home campus. So this is going to open up more options for you if you like this model and you're really looking at summer options. Global Seminars has one option in New Zealand, but some of the other UC campuses have options in Australia. So I'll be talking about those programs in later on in the information session. If you decide you want to go on one of these other UC campus programs, you would need to complete the other UC campus study abroad application, as well as our study abroad application, which is called Tritons Abroad. So financing your study abroad, I know cost is often a concern for students and they're worried about how they're going to pay for study abroad. We want you to know that study abroad should be accessible to all students. So if cost is a concern, we are here to work with you on it and talk to you about your concerns and discuss how financial aid can work and all of that. So the good news is financial aid will go with you if you're receiving academic credit, and study abroad programs should receive academic credit. And so if you're going during the academic year, let's say you decide you want to study abroad in New Zealand for the fall term, instead of the aid being packaged for UCSD, it's going to get packaged for your time in New Zealand. If you study abroad during the summer, the financial aid office will look at the aid that you've already or plan to use for the previous school year, and then they'll package your aid for the summer. So it's very dependent on what you have remaining in terms of your financial aid and going abroad during the summer. So the other thing is we do have an in-house financial aid advisor. His name is Eduardo, and he has been doing a lot of financial aid and scholarship information sessions. We do have the recording on our website under the fall events for 2023 page. If you go to our homepage, you'll see it right on the homepage, the fall 2023 events page, and you can watch the recording. But he has several sessions still coming up if you'd like to go to a live one through Zoom, and he will answer any questions that you might have. He is also at Drop-In Advising on Friday mornings from 10 to 11:30. And so if you're trying to decide whether you want to go during the summer or the school year, or whether Australia is going to work for you, you can certainly meet with him and he'll talk to you about your financial aid. When you identify a program, he will also provide you with an estimated aid package for that location. So if you're farther along and you're ready to apply and you know which program, he can talk to you about what your aid will look like for your term abroad. Also, there are a lot of scholarships out there for study abroad. These are scholarships that are specifically for study abroad. So scholarships you would not be eligible for if you did not study abroad. And so I encourage you to take a look at our homepage. We have a very detailed financial aid page, as well as a scholarship page. And on the scholarship page, you can see a link to a database where you can see some of the most common study abroad scholarships that are out there. And in the past, students have gotten anywhere $800,000 to $900,000 in study abroad scholarships and special study abroad grant money. And there are affordable program options out there. Right now, the US dollar is pretty strong in Australia. I'm not so sure about New Zealand, but if you feel that Australia or New Zealand is just, in terms of cost, isn't going to work for you, we can certainly talk to you about other options if this is a concern for you. So there are some things that I want you to know about Australia and New Zealand. And the first is that their academic calendar is different than ours. And obviously they're in the Southern Hemisphere, so their seasons are different than ours. They're opposite from our seasons. And so they start their school year in February. So their semester one runs February through June, and that would be what we call our spring term. So we're gonna, when you do your application and you're applying, we're not asking you to switch things up. If you apply for spring in Australia or New Zealand, it would be going during their semester one. If you want to go abroad during our fall term, that would be their semester two, which is July through November. So their fall semester, or our going abroad during our fall would mean you would be there during their winter and then spring. And if you go during our spring, you would be there during the fall and winter months. Now, the University of New South Wales, I have this parentheses here. UNSW is a quarter school. It's the only one in Australia. It's located in Sydney, and I'm going to be talking about UNSW shortly, but they're on a quarter system. And so if you decide to go to Australia in the fall and you pick UNSW, it's going to be a shorter program because it's a quarter length, and that can also bring down the cost. If you go to UNSW in the spring, so they're, fall and winter, then you would be there early January to mid-May. And so all spring programs in Australia and New Zealand, you would be missing 2 quarters, except for the marine biology program, which I'll be talking about a bit later. Also, I want to mention that UCAP New Zealand does have limited space UC-wide. We just don't have a lot of spots for the exchange agreements in New Zealand. So I wanted to let you know that for UCAP in the fall in New Zealand, it is going to be rolling admissions, and you will have to do 2 applications, one in the UCAP application portal and one in Tritons Abroad, which is the UCSD application. And on November 1st at 9 a.m., UCAP will open their application for all summer, fall, and year-long programs. Spring doesn't open until April 15th. But if you were thinking about fall or Australia University New South Wales, which also has limited space, be ready to apply, as close to you can as the 9 a.m. open date. It's just a way to ensure that you get a spot on the program. And UCAP just uses a timestamp of when the application was submitted. The other question that comes up a lot for the students that are looking at immersion programs, and what I mean by immersion programs is where you spend the semester or year at an Australian or New Zealand university and taking courses from their course catalog with local students, is which program or which university should I go to? Because, like, I'm a poli-sci major, where should I go? It's, I don't know which university would be best. You can really study anything at the universities, and you just remember you're going to an English-speaking country, large universities that are going to have a wide variety of course offerings. So I always tell students, you need to look at the course offerings for the particular universities you're thinking about to make sure they have the types of classes that you're interested in. So that's number one. The other thing is UCAP, when you look at their program pages for each university, under the academics tab, they have these guides where you can click on a comparative chart of Australian or New Zealand universities, and they just have some brief notes about, which universities, like their standout programs, if that is helpful to you. But I always tell students, you need to think about where it is you're going to be the happiest. So if you're a surfer and you want to be near the water, you need to think about that. If you're somebody that doesn't like the cold, maybe you want to go further north in Australia and not go to New Zealand in the South Island. So think about location, city size of the university, maybe hobbies and the surrounding, areas like I mentioned, surfing and the ocean being nearby. And then you're going to definitely want to look at specific course offerings, because some universities are going to be stronger than others or may have a more robust course offering in certain subject matters. So let's talk about EAP for several slides, and we're going to talk about New Zealand first. And here is a map of New Zealand. So hopefully you all know that New Zealand is made up of 2 islands, the North Island and the South Island. And these are the partner universities that EAP has exchange agreements with. So on the North Island, we've got the University of Auckland, and then in Hamilton is the University of Waikato. And then on the very bottom of the North Island is Wellington, and you've got Victoria University of Wellington and Massey University. And then in Christchurch is the University of Canterbury. And then at the very bottom, well, not very, very bottom, but the farthest south you can get with EAP is the University of Otago in Dunedin. So I'm going to break down the different host institutions and give you sort of a synopsis of what's unique and the size and all of that. So we'll go through the different partner universities in the next few slides. So Auckland is the city of sails. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a very large sailing city. If you follow sailing in the America's Cup, sometimes it's hosted in Auckland. The New Zealanders are very, and Australia as well, very big into sailing. And so Auckland is on a bay. It's very, very pretty. And the University of Auckland is a very, very urban campus. It's about 40,000 students. It's in the city center in a great location of Auckland. Auckland is the largest city in New Zealand. It's 1.4 million out of 4.5 million total. So New Zealand is not a very densely populated country in general. So when you get out of Auckland, you're going to definitely be in more either smaller cities or even in rural areas. So it doesn't take very long to drive out of Auckland where you're in the countryside. So if you like the idea of being in New Zealand and you need an urban environment, then I would say Auckland's going to be your best fit. And then with Auckland, there's a fall or a spring semester option, no summer options in New Zealand through EAP. And you need a 2.85 GPA. And with the EAP, all programs, it is at the time of application, we look at your GPA and we expect you to hold that GPA all the way through departure. And then the class standing for Auckland is you need to be a junior or senior by departure. So we look at your units by departure. So if you are a first year that came in with a lot of units and you're going to have junior standing by the time you leave, then that's totally fine with us. So Hamilton is where the University of Waikato is. And Hamilton is, I would say, a large town. It's 220,000 people. And the university is not very large. It's about 13,000 students. It's only about an hour and a half from Auckland. So it would give you a smaller New Zealand living experience at a smaller university, but you can still do weekend getaways to Auckland if you need that big city life. The other thing that's unique about the University of Waikato is they have the largest Maori student population in New Zealand. So if you are interested in Pacific Islander or Maori culture, then the University of Waikato would be a great option for you. And it's a very tranquil environment. There's lakes on campus, lots of green open spaces. You can walk to the city center. So it's easy to get around. And this university only requires a 2.75 GPA. So Wellington, there's two options that I'm going to talk about in Wellington. And Wellington is very hilly. It reminds me a lot of San Francisco, and it is also on the bay. And so this is a picture sort of looking from one of the higher peaks looking down towards the city center. And the Victoria University of Wellington is one of the two exchange partners in Wellington. I don't know if you realize this, but Wellington is the capital city of New Zealand. And Wellington is about 400,000 people. So that's the population size. And 21,000 students attend Victoria University of Wellington. So it's a medium-sized university, but smaller than like a place like University of Auckland. And it is an urban campus. I already mentioned that it's very hilly. It's also very windy. They call it, gosh, now I'm forgetting, Windy Wellington. And so people don't carry umbrellas there. They know tourists because if you carry an umbrella, a gust of wind is going to like break it apart. So it's very windy because it is on a bay and just the way it's situated. It's also the arts and culture capital of New Zealand. So if you're into that stuff, it would be a great location for you. They have a wonderful national museum there. A lot of the film studios are located in Wellington or just outside of Wellington. So it's a really nice, very livable city. And Victoria University of Wellington only requires a 2.75 GPA required. And then Massey University, their main campus is not in Wellington, but UCAP has a exchange agreement with Massey for their Wellington campus, which is their College of Creative Arts. So if you're an art, music, media design major, this would be the place I would recommend for you. It's pretty amazing, state-of-the-art facilities in downtown Wellington. Only 4,000 students attend this campus, so it's very small and it's very hands-on learning. And a 2.75 GPA for fall or spring, and they actually accept sophomores on this program. So I would also like to talk about global seminars. So remember I talked about going abroad to Australia or New Zealand, going with a UC professor, a UCSD professor. So we have a UCSD professor who is leading a global seminars for summer 2024. She led this trip last summer to New Zealand, and she is doing an information session on October 24th at Tuesday from 12 to 1:30. So if this sounds interesting to you, which the topic is screening New Zealand cinema, globalization, and CAT, and you don't have to be a 6 college major to go on this program, but it's been pre-approved for CAT 125. But if you feel like these classes fit either with your major, or you like the topic and you think they might work for your GE requirements, or you're ahead of schedule and you just love the idea of taking these classes, attend the information session. If you can attend, register. They'll send you the recording after the session. And if you go to the Global Seminars page, which this is a screenshot, it will tell you, it will give you I think a draft syllabus for the courses. They'll talk about the excursions, the cost, all of that. All the information you need will be on the Global Seminars page. So the next location I'd like to talk about, excuse me, is Christchurch. And Christchurch is on the South Island. And I don't know if you know this, but Christchurch was hit by a pretty devastating earthquake in 2011. And they have taken a very long time to rebuild the city. And they've done their rebuilding very intentionally to make it a very livable city. It's not a very large city. It's similar in size to Wellington, and it's just under 400,000, just like Wellington was 400,000. Christchurch is 366, so just under 400,000. And like I said, it's a very livable city. The last time I was there was before the pandemic, and they were still rebuilding, but I imagine everything has been finalized, and they have lots of open space and parks. The University of Canterbury is just outside the city center. It's in a suburb with about 14,000 students, so it's slightly larger than the University of Waikato. And University of Canterbury, if there's any engineering majors in attendance, it's a great option for engineering majors. The other great option for engineering majors is the University of Auckland. So those are the two universities I usually direct engineering majors. They also require a 2.75 GPA in junior or senior standing by departure. Dunedin is our furthest south partner university. And you can see here the beach on the South Island. It's very beautiful. It is a seaside town. So if you're a surfer and you want to go to New Zealand, University of Otago would be a great fit for you. It is really a college town. The population of Dunedin is only 118,000, and the campus is 21,000. So it reminds me a lot, like, not in terms of the environment, but UC Davis, how Davis is very much a college town. That's the feel that Dunedin has. And, you know, a large portion of the population is the students. And so it's a great choice for, like I said, for the surfers, but it also has easy access to hiking and the outdoors. So a lot of my outdoorsy students that want to camp and hike every weekend, you know, a lot of them will pick University of Otago. And University of Otago only has a fall option, and there's no spring option. So if you're interested in Otago, you would have to apply for the fall term, and they require a 2.85 GPA. So let's move on to Australia. You will see the partner universities here. We have 4 or 5 actually. University of Queensland is the furthest north in the state of Queensland. It's in the city of Brisbane. The University of Sydney and the University of New South Wales are in Sydney, Australia. The Australian National University is in Canberra. And then the University of Melbourne is the furthest south in the state of Victoria. So let's talk about Melbourne, where I studied abroad for a year. And here's just a nice picture that gives you the vibe of Melbourne, which is the arts capital of Australia, similar to Wellington is the arts capital of New Zealand. And Melbourne Uni, where I attended, is very large. There's 48,000 students, and Melbourne is a large city of 5 million people. So it's going to be a large, if you decide to go to Australia and you pick Melbourne, compared to like Auckland, Melbourne is a much bigger city if that is something that you're interested in. So the campus is centrally located. It's about a 15-20 minute walk into the city center. And like I said, it's very artsy, lots of coffee shops, a very strong music scene, and the weather is similar to San Francisco. New Zealand in general is going to be colder. It is further south. I'm just going to go back here. I don't have a map with both New Zealand and Australia, but New Zealand is like to the bottom right of Australia. So it is closer to Antarctica. So it's definitely cooler in New Zealand than Australia. But because of the location, the location of Melbourne being further south, it will be colder. And it, like I said, it's a lot like San Francisco. Sydney, beautiful Sydney in the Opera House. Everybody loves Sydney. And there are 2 institutions you can study abroad at the University of Sydney or the University of New South Wales. And Sydney is a large city, just like Melbourne, 5.3 million. And both institutions are very large, 48,000 and 41,000. So large universities. University of Sydney and UNSW are in different parts of the city. University of Sydney is more in the financial district, and I would say maybe a 15-minute bus ride down to the Circular Quay where the Opera House is. And then the University of New South Wales is closer to Coogee Beach and Bondi Beach. I'm sure you've heard of Bondi Beach. And so, you can get on Google and take a look if you're thinking about Sydney. Like I mentioned, University of New South Wales is the only institution on a quarter system. So if you go in the fall, it is going to start in September, and all programs in the fall will get you back in time for winter quarter. Sydney is going to be a lot like San Diego and, LA, Southern California, maybe slightly cooler, but very, very similar climate. And University of New South Wales requires a 2.85 GPA, and University of Sydney a 2.8. And all institutions in Australia allow sophomores. So switching gears to highlight our global exchange partner at Macquarie University. Again, this is a bilateral exchange between UC San Diego and Macquarie University. So students outside of UCSD will not be eligible to participate in the UCSD Global Exchange. Macquarie is also a large university. It's about 40,000 students, and it's in a suburb of Sydney. So UNSW and University of Sydney are in the central Sydney, and Macquarie is outside of the city center. This program was established with the linguistics department, and they have pre-approved classes for the linguistics major, and they have a very strong speech pathology department. However, starting in fall 2024, students who are social science majors will be eligible to apply for the global exchange. And you just need to be in good academic standing, sophomore, junior, or senior standing by departure. And remember, I said the fall is a bargain. You would be going abroad for a semester length, but you will be paying UCSD tuition, and so you just pay fall quarter. Brisbane is further north in the state of Queensland. So we have one partner university, the University of Queensland. Queensland is a very large university. It's 57,000 students because it is really like one of the main universities for the state of Queensland. So it's quite large. But Brisbane itself is smaller than Melbourne and Sydney. It's only 2.2 million. So if you like the idea of a large, university, but not a large city, then Queensland would be a great option for you. And it is a beautiful city. You can see the river goes through the city, and students will use river taxis to get from point A to point B. It's very cool to be able to take a river taxi to get where you need to go. Because it is further north, and just remember, Australia, as you go further north, it gets more tropical because you're getting closer to Southeast Asia, so Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, etc. So if you like sort of the climate similar to, I would say, It's probably cooler than Hawaii, but it's going to be more tropical for sure. So if you like that, then University of Queensland may be a good fit for you. I sometimes I'm asked by surfers, University of Queensland, how close is it to the beach? It's not close. It's about an hour and a half away. So that's something that you should be aware of. So talking about the theme programs, and I know I have a few marine biology majors in attendance, and that's going to be the next slide, but I wanted to highlight the Australian National University. That's the program in Canberra. And I don't know if you know this, but Canberra is the capital of Australia. It's not Sydney or Melbourne. And the reason why it's the capital is the two cities, Melbourne and Sydney, were fighting over who should be the capital. And so in between the two cities, they created that's where they put the capital to keep everybody happy. So Canberra is not very big. It's only about 400,000 people with 22,000 students at the Australian National University. ANU is very highly ranked. And this program is what I call a theme program, in that the theme of the program is international security. So EAP has created this package where they want students to take courses related to international security. So you're not going to be picking and choosing all 4 or 5 classes, however many you take, from their course catalog. EAP is giving you sort of a guidelines of what you can pick and choose from. So every student on this program will do an internship, and that internship can be 6 or 12 units. Or if you decide not to do an internship, you can substitute it with a research course. And then you will take 2 courses related to international security. And they have so many amazing classes on this topic. And because you're in the capital city, you can do some pretty amazing internships related to international security, international affairs, diplomacy, etc. Now, if you, depending on your internship and how many units you opt for, you may also then do an additional course, and that can be from any subject matter that you choose. This program runs in fall and spring, 2.75 GPA. You do have to have 2 quarters at UCSD at the time of application. So that would definitely shut out, I think, those first-year students who want to go in the fall. So the Marine Biology and Terrestrial Ecology program, this program is hosted by the University of Queensland, and it is run for UC students. So like the International Security Program, which is a themed program, this program's theme is marine biology and terrestrial ecology, and you're told basically what courses you'll be taking. And so every UC student on this program will take the same 2 courses, and you'll be taking marine biology and terrestrial ecology. So you're not picking and choosing your classes, and you're going to be in class with other UC students. So you're not going to be taking classes with Australian students. This is a field-based research program. So some of the time you're going to be in lectures at the University of Queensland with instructors for this program. And other times you're going to be out on the reef or doing field work, in different locations in the Queensland area. When you're in Brisbane, they will have you live with a host family. They want you to have that connection to Australian culture because you're mainly with UC students when you're in class. And then when you're out doing your field research, you're going to be staying typically in dormitories or field research stations. And for this program, it's a 2.75 GPA. It is also a fall semester program and a spring quarter program. So if you decide to go in the spring, you will only be away during spring quarter. You would leave right after winter quarter ends. And you do have to have a background in biology or marine science, marine biology, etc. So the other options for you in Australia or New Zealand are through the other UC campuses. Remember, I said you would be eligible to apply for one of the programs they're offering during the summer, should you be interested. So UC Davis offers some internships and one just regular study abroad summer program in New Zealand, in Australia. You can see that listed on the left-hand side here. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in one of these programs, you're going to need to apply through UC Davis's summer or their study abroad office, and then do our application. And they will have on their websites the costs, the course information, typical internship placements, etc. So if you're interested in veterinary medicine or sustainability and the environment, or you want to do a psychology internship, then UC Davis would be a great fit for you. UCLA is running a program in Wellington, New Zealand. It's focused on social science and context. And then UC Berkeley is offering internships in Sydney, Australia. And you would get UC credit for any of these programs. So the next steps, I'm going to be talking about, what to do next if you're if you're one of those students who's ready to apply for like summer 2024 or fall 2024, and the application season is ready, your time right now, and deadlines are coming up. This is just a screenshot from our homepage, expanding the students tab. You'll see at the top on the left-hand side here, there's a link to our Tritons Abroad application, but under the Students tab, you can access that Get Started course. You can get to our advising services and see when we do our virtual drop-in advising. The Find a Program page is going to be really important for you, because when you open up that page, that's where we link to the Global Exchange page, the UCAP landing page, where you can get to UCAP's website and read a ton of information. Global Seminars is linked here. The other UC campus programs are linked here. So Find a Program is going to be a really good resource for you to see details, including course information, costs, all of that. And then obviously how to apply. There's instructions on how to apply depending on which program you decide is the best fit for you. That financial aid and scholarships page, you can get to it here. And then our deadlines pages are here as well. I just want to give you a quick snapshot of what a typical UCAP program page looks like. So I got this from the UCAP website. It's actually for just Singapore, but you'll see here in the bluish greenish box, program at a glance. It always tells you like the terms that you can go, the required GPA, the minimum GPA, class level. There's a link to the application. And then on the left-hand side under program details is where you're going to find the meat and potatoes of the program details. So you can see detailed eligibility requirements, the approximate dates that the program will run. Academics is where we link to the host university's catalog, tons of resources. Remember those academic guides I mentioned at the beginning of the information session? You'll see those listed here. You can read about the housing, and then there's a cost calculator. So you can see what the breakdown is in terms of cost. And any program page, whether it's Global Seminars, Global Exchange, other UC campuses, they're going to give you similar resources so you can read about the program. I also encourage you to come to our Study Abroad Fair. This is something that we do once a year. This is offered on Monday, October 23rd from 10 to 2. It's open house style, so come by when you can. And UCAP, their system-wide headquarters is located in Santa Barbara. They're going to be driving down. They're going to have several tables talking to students about EAP programs. We're going to have a financial aid table, global exchange, global seminars. So stop by, grab some information, ask your questions, and that's this coming Monday. So the next steps for you, if you are interested in moving forward with study abroad, whether it's Australia or New Zealand or another location, we always ask that you work with your academic advisors. So you're going to need to talk to your major and your college advisors about what degree requirements you have left. Is there a cap on the number of courses you can take abroad for your major? If you're thinking about GE requirements, are there certain GE requirements that your college wants you to do here at UCSD, and which ones would they recommend you take abroad? So make sure that you're talking to your academic advisors. It's going to be like sort of bouncing between the two, our office and your department and college. I'll be able to talk to you about all things study abroad, and if you're having a hard time finding the course information, but your academic advisors in your department and college, if you want to petition these courses for major or GE requirements, you're going to be needing to discuss this with them. You also want to think about what's going to be the best fit for you. So think about the cost and the dates and the courses. Where do you see yourself happiest on a day-to-day basis? And then obviously, do you meet the eligibility requirements for the program? And I don't know if I said this, but Global Seminars is a 2.0 GPA and good academic standing, so a lower GPA requirement. And then if you're on financial aid, talk to our in-house financial aid advisor, go to the info session. If you have any questions for me about Australia or New Zealand, I'm here to help. And then if you're thinking about going in summer 2024, fall 2024, or for a full year, deadlines are coming up. If you're a spring 2025 student, you've got some time. Or if you're first year or second year and you're thinking about a little bit later, then you would need to hang tight, plan out your courses, do your research, and then be ready to apply when your deadlines are coming up. So we do offer advising. I already mentioned that we do drop-in virtual advising. So you're going to sign in through the VAC. We offer our drop-in advising Monday, Thursday afternoons from 1 to 3, and we close the drop-in sign-ins at 2:45. And then we have drop-in advising Friday mornings, and that's when Eduardo, our in-house financial aid advisor, is there. And that's from 10 to 11:30, and we close it up at 11:15. You can always send us a VAC message. That's 24/7. If it's a easy question, we answer very quickly. So that's something you can use as well. And then I have a QR code here for the Get Started course or session. If, I've given you a lot of information, I probably have given you, a good foundation for getting started, but the course has a lot of information beyond what I've shared with you today. So I encourage you to do the Canvas course or go to one of the remaining Get Started sessions, and they're in person and there are a few that are virtual. So now I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions, and I'm going to stop recording.